I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, a possible escape route for Canadians and other foreign nationals hoping to leave Gaza through Egypt is closed, at least for now.
There was violence around the Rafah crossing, and therefore the operation had to be cancelled.
The news comes as young Palestinians organize a rally in the GTA calling for support of the Palestinian people. Plus,
I tried messaging Judy, and I could see on the WhatsApp that no blue lines, no blue checks, and tried calling her. There wasn't an answer.
1 week after that stunning assault by Hamas militants, friends and family of those still missing share their heartache and hope as we also learn about the 4th Canadian confirmed killed. And
I gotta say, it is so great to see you all here in person after 5 years.
the federal NDP gather in Hamilton for a policy convention where Jagmeet Singh's leadership is put to the test.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Thanks for joining us in Gaza City tonight. It's after midnight local time. It is almost total darkness with no electricity. Now, the city is part of a region under an evacuation order imposed by the Israeli military. The deadline for the 1.1 million people living in northern Gaza to leave has now come and gone. As Sasha Petrusik shows us, Israel says its forces are ready to launch a comprehensive offensive by air, sea, and land.
Soldiers, tanks, and heavy equipment pile up along the border with Gaza as Israel prepares to enter. Are you ready for what comes next? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asked them. The people of Gaza are not. After a week of Israeli airstrikes, which local health authorities say killed more than 2,200, many have begun an exodus south, warned to leave their homes by Israel. It is a long, dangerous trek for hundreds of thousands. Desperation is growing here as food and fuel run out, supplies blocked by Israel. Now it promises an imminent military offensive from land, sea, and air, one meant to destroy Hamas, it says, the militant group which attacked Israel. But the government's long-term plan is less clear.
What happens next? And there is no doubt in my mind that there are figures in the government and in the military who are asking the same question. But to be very frank, if they have answers, they are not sharing them. And I am not at all sure they have answers.
As for Hamas, its leader has vowed to keep fighting, vowed that Palestinians will never be forced from Gaza. Foreigners, including Canadians, are trying to leave Gaza, told to gather at the southernmost exit to Egypt at noon today. Many terrified, like this British girl.
Every place I go run away, and I just find bombs and I find dead people. And like maybe one day I'll end up like them, but it's a really scary thing for me.
But they remain trapped. The agreement to open the gates derailed. Ottawa says it is working on alternatives.
And I can understand that there's the disappointment and the fear and the anxiety.
In the meantime, military preparations for Israel's attack on Gaza continue, with the arrival of more weapons and ammunition from the United States. Toronto.
You're looking now at Celebration Square in Mississauga, a large group of people gathering in support of Palestinians in Gaza, people waving flags and carrying signs. The demonstration was organized by the Palestinian Youth Movement. The organization says on social media that it is a grassroots independent movement of Palestinian and Arab youth.
We are here today to demand the end of the siege on Gaza. We are here today to say that this has been ongoing for 75 years. The violence that you're seeing did not exist only in this week.
I want the Canadian government and the Canadian politicians to put their feet on the Palestinian shoes and to look at the suffer that the Palestinians have, either in Gaza or in the West Bank. Life is miserable. Like, I cannot describe it. I lived it, I seen it myself.
Similar rallies were held right around the world today. It comes as a possible escape route from the deadly conflict in Gaza has been closed, at least for now. As Ithil Musa shows us, that means for the nearly 1 Canada, there is no way out.
In England, Germany, and France, protesters came out in support of Palestinians. Many also condemned Israel's intensified strikes on Gaza in retaliation for Hamas's deadly attack on civilians and soldiers 1 week ago. Similar actions also took place in cities across Canada. In Tel Aviv, outside of Israel's defense ministry, dozens gathered to demand the safe return of hostages held by Hamas. My daughter is one of around 120 hostages that we know about, says Shira Albag, and there are a lot of others whom we don't know about. They have to get them home now. Some in Israel are now trying desperately to leave the region. The first group of evacuated Canadians were airlifted to Canada on Friday. But for Canadians trying to leave Gaza, for now, there is no way out.
Canada has an agreement with Israel to get Canadians out of Gaza. Things are very volatile, obviously in Gaza, where it is one of the worst places on earth right now to be living in, but also at the same time, we're convinced that we can work with Israeli authorities to get Canadians out.
Jolie says there are about 160 Canadians and their relatives in Gaza who've requested a safe passage out. Rola Baker in New Brunswick is desperate to reach her family there.
There's no word to describe what's going. I barely connect to them. Either they're still alive or they die. I don't know.
The number of Canadians in Gaza who have died in the conflict is not known. But Shir Georgi is the fourth Canadian in Israel confirmed to have been killed. The 22-year-old went missing last week after Hamas militants ambushed a music festival near a kibbutz. Canadian officials say there are still 3 Canadians in Israel missing. Ithil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, it has been 1 week since that stunning assault by Hamas militants. Friends and family of those still missing are sharing their heartache and hope that their loved ones might still be found alive and safe. Tyler Cheese has that part of the story.
Early last Saturday morning, as the Hamas attack on Israel began, this video was sent to a group chat on WhatsApp. Adele Reamer was one of the recipients and agreed to share the video with CBC News.
I didn't pay too much attention to the picture. I saw it was the fields and the sky, and I figured there's a rocket there someplace.
At the time, Reamer was sheltering in her own home in Niram, about 2 kilometers away from the Gaza Strip. She and her neighbors were soon rescued and evacuated from the area on a bus.
And we drove through an active war zone. There were smoking cars. There were charred bodies on the side of the road. I was petrified because I didn't know if a rocket was going to explode near us.
It wasn't until she was safe in a hotel that she remembered the video sent by her friend Judy, who was on a sunrise walk with her husband when the attack began.
All of a sudden, the penny dropped, and I thought, wow, Judy and Gadi were in the fields. I wonder if they got home. And I tried messaging Judy, and I could see on the WhatsApp that no blue lines, no blue checks, and tried calling her. There wasn't an answer.
Judy Weinstein-Haggai is originally from Toronto, where she taught students with disabilities. In Israel, she taught English as a second language. Neither she nor her husband have been heard from since last Saturday.
Judy's story is only one story, and there's so many, so many. You know, in the Jewish religion, we say every single life is an entire universe. So many universes have been destroyed.
Earlier this week, we also learned that Adi Vital Kaploun, a Canadian-Israeli woman with ties to Ottawa, was killed in the attack.
Adi was a wonderful, loving, caring, compassionate woman, a wonderful sister, a supportive and beautiful daughter. a caring mother for her 2 children.
Vital Kaploon's cousin-in-law says the family is devastated.
No one's doing okay. It's hard to put it into words. There's no words for how we're feeling from this utter act of terror.
Earlier today, the Foreign Affairs Minister said Canada is working with Israel, Palestinian authorities, and Jordan to evacuate Canadians from the region, including Gaza and the West Bank, as soon as possible. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, we are expecting another flight carrying Canadians to touch down at Pearson a little later this hour. For more on that and all of our reporting on this evolving story, you can head to our website, that's cbc.ca/news. Well, turning to some other stories now, the federal NDP touching down in Hamilton this weekend for a policy convention. As Marina von Stackelberg shows us, they're hoping this could bring a boost to the party's profile in southern Ontario, where they've lost seats in recent elections.
This is the first time in over 5 years that NDP party faithful are gathering in person. And this is essentially an opportunity for NDP membership to tell the party where they stand on key issues. They are voting on dozens of resolutions on all different types of topics. Now, these resolutions are non-binding, which means they can't direct MPs or the leader in Ottawa to act on them, but they do give them an idea as to the direction they want the party to go in. Now, one issue that has been quite contentious at this convention is the issue of the war between Israel and Hamas. And we heard the leader, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, address it in his speech earlier on.
It is hard to see a path out of this darkness. There can be no justification for the torture, murder, and sexual violence committed by Hamas. And we must call for the immediate end of the killing of innocent civilians in Gaza. The world cannot stand by while the people of Gaza are left to die.
Now, this is an issue that has really taken a hold of the convention. Singh was actually doing his big speech when outside of the main room here, a protest broke out. It actually included some of the NDP delegates, several dozen people. About a dozen police officers were called and the protesters left, but the credentials of several NDP members were revoked. And we saw later on one of them come back and try to speak on the floor. There were some more outbursts from other delegates, and debate actually had to stop while they left. Now, during his availability, we heard Singh call for a ceasefire, but he wouldn't say what he thinks that would look like. And some want the NDP here to take a stronger stance on Israel's actions in Gaza. Now, during his availability, we also asked him about support from the party. They voted today supporting him 81%, but that's down from 2 years ago when he saw support at 87%. Here's what he had to say.
Can new Democrats deliver real programs that make people's lives better? The answer is now yes. We can take that to Canadians. We can deliver. We can make things happen that give people a break, give people some relief. That's going to save for families. That's thousands of dollars that are saved with having a free dental care program. That's going to save families money, but also keep them healthier.
This is also the first time the NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has heard from more than 1,000 of his party faithful about how they feel about the supply and confidence agreement that the NDP has with the Liberals. Now, of course, this entails that NDP MPs support the Liberals on key legislation, and in return, the Liberals have agreed to move forward certain policy positions that the NDP have, for example, dental care. Now, Singh says the fact that dental care is in the works is an example that the NDP is being successful despite only having 25 MPs in a House of Commons that sits 338. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Hamilton, Ontario.
Sophia is here with our first look at the forecast. There was something pretty cool happening outside today. I didn't get a chance to see it. How about you?
Not many Ontarians did, just like you and I, Shannon. The path of that maximum exposure was in the southwestern U.S. So if you had friends in Colorado, they were the lucky ones to see the big annular solar eclipse earlier this afternoon. But many Ontarians were hoping to see even just a partial eclipse. No chance with this big Colorado low that's been swirling above us for the past few days. It brought us that raw, wet, windy Saturday. It might have dampened your plans a little bit. We had some 70-kilometer-hour wind gusts around the Lake Erie shorelines, and those wraparound showers were quite intense around the Golden Horseshoe. Now, this system is mostly stateside now. Few pop-up showers around the Golden Horseshoe, or sorry, rather around the Huron and the Georgian shores. What we will have tomorrow, though, is still more of that raw wind, gusting 40 to 50 kilometers an hour, but we have an improving temperature story. Peaks of sunshine tomorrow, still a few pop-up showers, especially around those Huron shorelines. And then by midweek, Shannon, we're back up to seasonal and lots more chances of sunshine this upcoming week. I'll have that for you in the long range.
Some good news. We'll see you soon.
You got it.
Welcome back. As Toronto continues to struggle with record high rent, new data from the city shows more short-term rentals are popping up in condo buildings. Some residents say they are destroying the character of their neighborhoods, as Patrick Swadden shows us, while other cities like New York are cracking down on Airbnb. Toronto says it doesn't have the resources.
Now these are all short-term rentals?
These are all but one. All but one. There's one person left standing in the building.
Yeah. It's a lot of neighbors that were lost here.
These two say Kensington Market has lost its sense of community as more and more units in the neighborhood are being used as short-term rentals on platforms like Airbnb.
We just started hearing construction noises and seeing units kind of become smaller and smaller, and seeing more and more of our long-term neighbors not be replaced by long-term people.
And there are 8,000 units just like the ones they're seeing, according to data released by the city that show addresses for short-term rentals. Some buildings, like this one at 300 Front Street, have almost 200 units alone listed on Airbnb.
If I look at a building and I see they have 200 short-term rental units, I really question whether these are actually all legal, whether these are all principal residences.
It's raising concerns that investors are buying up units and turning them into de facto or ghost hotels without being zoned or taxed that way.
Losing housing stock to platforms like Airbnb is a big problem, contributes to housing cost increases.
But Airbnb disagrees, saying in a statement to CBC Toronto, stricter short-term rental regulations will not solve the housing crisis in the city, but what they will do is take income away from those that need it and visitor spending away from communities. Toronto's bylaws say landlords can only rent out their unit if they're the principal resident, and they have to have a license to do it. But the city is having a hard time cracking down.
The operators and a lot of the people who are renting their places out are using every trick in the book to evade our regulatory frameworks.
The city only has 9 bylaw officers to investigate. They've laid 22 charges this year against over 1,100 complaints. But
even if we had 1,000 bylaw operators, the way the company has been behaving and the really awkward tools that we're allowed to use under provincial law mean getting convictions are hard.
We would love to see the province work with the municipalities to keep a register.
Perks says the city is beginning talks with the province on the issue and has consultations with the public later this month. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
The province's police watchdog is now looking into a crash in Vaughan where a 17-year-old boy was seriously injured during a police pursuit. It happened last night near Canada's Wonderland just after 7:30. The SIU says a York Regional Police officer who was patrolling Wonderland's parking lot exited their vehicle after spotting a teenager who was behaving, quote, suspiciously. The SIU says the teen ran away from the officer making his way to Jane Street, where he was hit by a vehicle. He remains in serious condition. After one of the worst years on record for deadly house fires in our province, Toronto Fire is sharing a message of safety, especially when it comes to one of the top causes.
Well, cooking is responsible or is the cause of about 1 in 4 residential fires in our city. And I would say shockingly, but interestingly enough, that trend tends to hold true across the province as well. So the theme, of course, this year is about never leaving cooking unattended. If something is on the stove or we're cooking, we need to stay with that. It is really about being vigilant, being present.
Critical advice. The event was hosted at the Toronto Fire Academy, marking the end of Toronto's Fire Prevention Week. Now, steps to help reduce fire risk when cooking were at the center of the open house, but so was this, firefighting and rescue demonstrations on display, with crews putting out structures caught on fire in front of a lot. The Toronto Waterfront Marathon will take over downtown tomorrow morning. Thousands of people from all over the world will be lacing up at the start line.
It's a big weekend with lots of energy and excitement and passion, people in tears at the finish line, tears of joy. But it's also much more than just a weekend. It's about being part of the community.
More than 25,000 people have officially registered to run, and many are racing for a good cause. Brooke says so far this year, runners have raised $3 million for 159 registered Canadian charities. I think one of my favorite parts is all the cheerleaders along the route, the people standing on their balconies or like banging drums. They're the best ones.
All the little kids with the Go Mom and Go Dad signs.
Yes.
And good news for all the runners, it'll be cool, clear, and cloudy tomorrow. It's pretty good running weather. At least it's not snow. That's what we could have had if this Colorado low was around when we were a little bit cooler in the temperature game. Instead, we had a whole bunch of rain this weekend. Still some pop-up showers going on around the Huron shores. That Colorado low mostly to our south, but it brought us that real raw, wet, windy, fall storm kind of vibe. A lot of discrepancy as well as far as how much rain you may end up with by the end of this weekend. Some could see about 5 millimeters of rain, but for the others who really had some of those lake effect shower bands lock in, could see up to 40 or 45 millimeters of rain. The story, though, is that of improving conditions. Sunday will be better than Saturday. Monday will be better than Sunday. Everybody will still have some breezy conditions Sunday into Monday, with winds gusting, as we mentioned earlier, about 40 to 50 kilometers an hour. But less rain tomorrow than you saw today, and more peaks of sunshine will be the story going forward. Really nice Tuesday and Wednesday to look forward to. And it's nice because we had a really dreary week this past week. Lots of gray, cloudy days, and we've got a couple days upcoming this week with a good chunk of sunshine. So enjoy the seasonal days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, before the next system moves in Thursday into Friday. Until then, the clouds from this Colorado low clear. We have a nice ridge building midweek before that next system comes in for the prairies to end off the weekend. But we'll talk about that next week, Shannon, and we still haven't had a frost yet either, so that's good news.
It is good news, and we got to start planning our Halloween costumes too.
Oh, just get ready, everybody.
Thanks so much, Sophia. That is our show for you tonight. Thanks for being here with us.